This is the Cuban tree frog. The first reported sighting was in 2017 at a fish farm in Clarendon. But it's believed that the amphibian was introduced to the island sometime before that. Today, there have been sightings of this invasive species in several parishes, causing wonderment and weariness in its wake. Scientifically known as Osteopilus septentrionalis, the Cuban tree frog is native to Cuba, the Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands. It is theorized that its presence on the island may have been due to stowaway.
We suspect they came in on shipments, so maybe shipments of agricultural products or even industrial products such as pipes, so on and so forth.
One of the best ways by the Cuban tree frog, as opposed to other species of frogs in Jamaica, is by these bright colors right under the legs. So the back leg, this bright greenish yellowish color, you can see it on both sides. So this is a great indicator of a Cuban tree frog.
And another way you may distinguish between them and our local frogs is by their call.
The Cuban tree frog is a tree, in true sense, a tree frog. And some of the main characteristics you can use to distinguish it from other frogs that we have in Jamaica is that it has these large toe pads, these circular toe pads that it uses to adhere to surfaces.
They particularly like to hide in foliage, leaves, like between banana leaves, mango leaves, as well as your potted plants in and around your household, especially if you have a garden. So we encourage persons that if you have house garden, your backyard gardens, check the leaves of your plants to see if there are any Cuban tree frogs hiding out in there.
It is important to note that frogs are not pets and should not be made so. While not overly dangerous to humans, there are concerns about human contact and the dangers the frogs may present. It should be known that their skin secretes a type of mucus that may cause an allergic reaction. However, the presence of the Cuban tree frogs mostly affects the Jamaican environment.
The Cuban tree frog has a very voracious appetite, which means that they basically eat anything that fits in their mouth.
Whether it is insects, other frogs, small reptiles such as our small snakes, small lizards, and if they can fit a small bird in their mouth, like the bigger ones, they will do it as well.
And that can have a detrimental impact on the country's ecosystems, because you lose these animals, these endemic, these native animals that play such a vital role in our habitat, and they're replaced with another animal that takes over their habitat, and then the functions that we lose from the ones that are eaten or decimated will no longer exist. So environmentally, that's a big issue.
And the Cuban tree frog population is growing because
none of our local species identify them as food. And because they're introduced now, they're trying to find their spot in our food web or ecosystem. So they are testing the limits to see where they lie. However, our local species also do not identify them as prey. So no one identifies them as predator, no one identifies them as prey. So that essentially gives them like this open room to eat as much as they want, reproduce as much as they want without any threat to their increase in population.
with this free roam, the Cuban tree frogs have been spotted in Clarendon, St. Catherine, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Kingston and St. Andrew, Westmoreland and St. James, causing upset due to their audacious personality, which will have them in homes or camping out on walls near light bulbs waiting for their next meal. The Salientians' presence has been causing much distress to players in the apiary sector.
We've been getting reports of them eating bees, and that's the main thing in terms of agriculture, because they will literally camp out on the bee box and pick them off as they come. In some instances, they seek shelter in the bee box, so they'll actually be in the bee box, and that presence also disturbs the bees, so they may not form cones in that area. And if they do happen to eat a queen, then you have a collapse of the colony. So that's the honey industry.
That's why the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA is encouraging Jamaicans to help in its bid to eradicate the Cuban tree frog. But the agency wants the removal to be done in a safe and humane way.
Safe meaning we don't want you to use harmful chemicals or hot water or bleach or any of that, because not only, yes, it might be effective in killing the frogs, but it might also harm you. If you're going to kill them, use a sharp object or a blunt object to hit them. Hit them or stab them in the back of the head. So that will be a quick, clean death.
There's also another method.
We've been exploring the use of traps, and they're simple traps, which is just a PVC pipe installed in a general area, standing, installed, or sometimes laying down with one end closed in a general area where you'd have seen them before, because they will go and congregate in there. And then once you keep checking to see if they're in there, and once you see them, then now you eliminate those and then reset.
NEPA, however, is urging caution as there are over 21 species of frogs which are endemic to Jamaica and are essential to the island's ecosystem.
We actually want persons to find appreciation in our native species. It's unfortunate that this one may pose a threat to those species, and that's why we ask you to share your photos of various frogs that you see so we can help determine what species it is and take the appropriate action.
So we caution residents that yes, while we want to remove this specific species of invasive frogs from our environment, we do have local frog species which should be protected because they play a significant and important role in maintaining our ecosystems. So one of the primary things is that they might help control other populations that are problematic. So it's not a case where you must kill every single frog that you see. However, we are specific to the Cuban tree frogs because they're not from this area and we want to remove them from this area.
While NEPA leads the charge with ridding the island of the Cuban tree frog, regular Jamaicans are being urged to join the fight. How? Report sightings of the frog to NEPA, or citizens in affected communities may organize projects to eradicate them. Citizens may also manage and reduce the population by eliminating stagnant water around homes and check potted plants regularly for Cuban tree frog breeding sites. For more information, contact the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA at 876-754-7540, or you may visit the NEPA head office at 10 to 11 Caledonia Avenue, Kingston 5.